this all begin with you two, like years ago? And like, you know, whose idea was it? Did you both have it like at the same time, spontaneously? Like, tell us the origins.
It's kind of a long road to this. So Paul and I have a producing background, and we've made a number of features that we produced for Emily Higgins, who I think is also here somewhere. And eventually we decided to try to make stuff for ourselves. And we had a couple projects that were almost going, not going. Then the pandemic happened and everything shut down. So we wrote a book, and then after things started to sort of open back up again, we decided, all right, let's figure out what our first feature is going to be. And we wanted very intentionally to do something that was theoretically as frictionless as possible so that we could do it ourselves with a minimal number of people. And years prior to that, we had this idea of a entirely fictionalized podcast about a journalist going to this small town and investigating this weird thing that was going on. So we went back to that idea, and Paul's, my day job is I'm a film programmer at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
Paul's day job is producing sports documentaries, and so we had access to a great documentary crew, and then you can take over from here.
Yeah, like Peter mentioned, like David Kuhn over there and I worked together for many years. I have documentary editing background. We have a documentary co-editor. And so when we were trying to figure out something that we could kind of own and control all the pieces of, if everyone else said no, we could still find a way to do it. It just kind of felt like a natural fit to explore the world of a fake documentary. And then, yeah, we kind of had that old idea in a drawer, and it just kind of married to the concept.
Yeah, and we got ridiculously lucky with how this movie was made, because, as we were saying, we were going to plow forward making it ourselves. We happened to meet Dave Lawson at various film festivals. We had seen him in Benson and Moorhead's Something in the Dirt, which used a bunch of mixed media found footage stuff, and so I just cold reached out to Dave and said, hey, we've got this script that Paul and I are making. Could we pick your brain about the red flags that we're going to run into production-wise using all these mixed media sources? Would you like to read it? And Dave, I think very foolishly, said yes.
Got him. We got him.
I mean, in the back of our heads, our whole ploy was like, I hope they say they want it. And thankfully they did. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Dave.
Yeah, that's why I don't read scripts.
We ruined it for the rest of y'all. Sorry.
But yeah, that was the long road to it.
I feel like Dave more. I mean, that was just so like.
No, I mean, what you see is almost exactly what was on the script, minus some insanely great improv from John as the Reverend. It got added later. And it's a small editorial that kind of changes, but it was a great script, and it was one of those ones where it's like, I guess I'll be sleeping on an air mattress for 6 weeks while we make this movie.
Yeah, I mean, the crew on this didn't show, very, very small. Most days there were less than 10 people on set. We did not have a sound person. Dave did.
Yes, we did. It was me.
Who was also producing and cooking lunch at the same time.
For Brett, who did send, we did all of this production in and around Austin, but we actually came out here to Anarchy Post to do sound. So a huge shout out to Brett if you're still here, because he pull out what was up there is miracle work.
I'd love to hear a little bit from John and like inhabiting that character. And are you okay? Did you need to like exercise?
No, I'm okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm certainly was better after a day of filming than I was on Fuck My Son.
Yeah.
I mean, they reached out to me for something completely different. I've known Peter and Paul for years, and it was a case of Peter kind of going, hey, take a look at the script and tell me if you know any actors that'll fit this role. I did not immediately say, me! I looked at it and it was like, in the script he was like 6 feet tall and skinny. I'm 6 foot, I'm not skinny. But we had the conversation and like, I sent him some footage of like John Hagee Jerry Falwell, like those kind of guys, not necessarily like this image of this like spindly 80-year-old man. And we kind of started to have a conversation about it, and then I had that audition in Paul's living room, and it was like, it's interesting, like it was preaching. So it was like 3 different colors of Endicott, talking like normal to regular people. There was the TV show Endicott, and then there was the pulpit Endicott. And it was funny in the living room, like doing the pulpit stuff, I could feel like Ashley, who was our production designer, you, Peter, kind of like leaning forward during the preaching. And in my head, I was like, oh, this is working. This is working. And it worked, I guess, because I got it. So.
And then he started a cult.
I started a cult, that's why I'm here.
But that was also, real quick, that was the same day that you read the script, basically. It was like you went and auditioned like 5 hours later.
He's Austin's best kept secret from an acting standpoint. Not anymore.
Just so everybody knows, it wasn't us who did it. It was all John. The opening, like 90 seconds in, reach out, talk to Richard. We were shooting something else, and John just goes, "Can I try something?" We go, "Yeah, sure, go for it. It's just mini TV. Let's just keep it rolling." And then he did that in one go. That's an unbroken take, and not in the script. And that was the first thing we put on the timeline in post-production. We're like, "Oh, well, that's the beginning of the movie, and that will never change."
So it sounds like it was a very collaborative environment on that set in general. How about you guys? Talk a little bit about your jumping into this.
Yeah, William and Kim.
Yeah, when I read the script, I read the script in like kind of one sitting, which is rare for me, and I just couldn't put it down. And then I was going to do a tape, and I had my buddy come over, and I was like, I need to book this project. I have no other choice. And so we did like 40 takes of like one scene, which like every casting director is like, don't do that. You only do 4 takes. And I did like 40, and I was like, thank God I booked this project, because this was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And we got to shoot it at my grandma's property too. David calls me after I booked the project. He goes, do you know where we could film like a whole house or like a barn or something? And I was like, yes, I have both of those things. After I had booked the project.
You got it. This is a series of getting.
So it was like a family, I don't know, it was just like a nice tie into my family and like my personal history too. So I always treasure this project.
You guys.
All right, David.
Yeah, I think when, like Paul was saying, we had originally met through doing documentary filmmaking together, and when they first brought me the script, I think one of the most interesting challenges of it was one, kind of marrying documentary and narrative filmmaking, but also creating kind of 3 distinct time periods. We had like the past where Endicott and the parents were kind of setting up that. The kind of recent past where the man finds tape stuff happens, and then the contemporary time. And so just kind of like marrying the, for present we had an FX9 with anamorphic lenses to kind of create that distinct look, all the way back to using like a DV cam for the kind of older stuff, just to kind of marry those time periods. In addition to that, just kind of like working with the actors was such a unique challenge. Like working with someone like William, in a lot of the film, I think it's kind of played off as if the actors are shooting it, which they are kind of shooting some, but especially in Boone's Barbecue, there's a lot of balance between Lynn and William kind of shooting together. And honestly, a lot of that was kind of me in the middle of the actors, pretending to be different characters at any time. And so yeah, it's just, I think, I was just telling my friends who were watching it for the first time, the barbecue scene specifically was one of the bigger challenges, and I remember the whole couple days of filming there, especially with Aaron and Justin, they were watching, I was just like getting so stressed and wondering, is this gonna work? Are the trade-offs gonna work? Is the way the barbecue looks, does it look too cinematic? Does it look too narrative-like? Is it gonna play off as a documentary? And it was such a relief to kind of see it on the big screen and kind of just see all these moments work together. And I will say, just as a lead-in to Tim, one of the most impressive things for me, seeing it multiple times, was the spiral sequence. And I really feel like in addition to all the things that the other team members did, like one of the things for me that really sold the film was that sequence, and it felt so unlike anything else, and I really felt like it sold the horror aspect, and Tim, you should talk about it a little bit, because you always just say,
I want to set this up real quick, but yeah, so the sequence we're talking about is when she goes in after the stranger, and there's that kind of infinite spiral, and so that was entirely digital. And we actually didn't have that in the script, and we had seen, this is Tim Buell, he lives in LA, extremely talented. We've seen his work on Instagram. He does these liminal space, really creepy, interesting videos.
Do drugs and go look at them.
And we saw that, and we were like, man, it would be incredible in our third act if we could like have this big, like you never see this coming kind of sequence. So we kind of hit him up, and we said, hey, we're making this movie. We really can't pay you. Do you want to do it for exposure? We didn't say that, but we're like, listen, this is what we're doing. We think it's going to be cool. What do you think? And yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words, everyone. Appreciate it. Yeah, I made the sequence in a free software called Blender, and you guys, anyone who's curious, you can go play with it. It's hard to use, but you can learn it, and you can make awesome stuff with it. I started learning it because I do live action film, but not everyone's always available to shoot short film projects and stuff, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool if I could just make no actor short films and do digital, just CGI stuff. And so I started messing around with it, and then these guys reach out to me and tell me like, hey, one of your little shorts that you made, and they're all kind of found footage adjacent too, so I think that's why it kind of made sense. But he's like, hey, this one particular one with these stairs kind of made us think this might be something we could do digitally, blah, 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 what do you think? So yeah, we decided to do it. I just kind of went through, mapped out the whole shot, lots of modeling, texturing, animation. I will, once the film's more readily available, I'm gonna upload like screenshots of like what the actual screen looks like. It's just a nightmare, but it's fun thing. But no, I've been like really into emulating what real cameras can do digitally, right? Like it kind of instantly makes things look a lot more realistic, especially if you got some handheld shake on your camera, stuff like that. So wasn't a huge long process aside from like when I'd go into hibernation and then work for days and days, and then it took like every time I would like export it or render it out, it would take like 13, 14 hours to get through the whole entire thing. But it was worth it. No, it was an awesome opportunity, and I love, this is the first time I got to see it with final sound design and everything, so it was really fun to see it in context with the movie. Yeah.
Again, Tim is super talented.
Thank you, appreciate it.
There were 2 versions. That's how good he was.
Yeah, there were only 2 versions, and actually it came out so good it kind of created a problem with us in the edit, because when we filmed it, we were like, okay, so this is gonna be, she's gonna go see the spiral. So we filmed Kelsey, the actress who plays Lynn, running in, and we got her reactions coming out, and we got a gradient of reactions, but we didn't get one where she would react as if it was as fucking great as it was. So we kind of had to cut out of her reaction earlier because it didn't match what the audience had just seen, which is why we created the 911 call, which was just as a band-aid to cover up the fact that we didn't anticipate
It was intentional.
Cool. How about we open up to the audience? I saw your hand up first.
Hi there. Name's Sean. I wanted to say that you did a very good job of making it feel like a real documentary with the multiple shots, the B-roll. So, was it always meant to be found footage? Did you ever want it to be a narrative film or anything like that? Or was it always meant to be like this?
It was always meant to be like this. At one point, we wrote a version of this that was a more traditional narrative, but it wasn't working. The themes weren't as there. They worked. I mean, there's a lot of this movie is in conversation with itself and its style and how media is consumed these days. Interestingly, we never really thought of it as a found footage movie, but when writing it, we kind of had to write the events as they happened. So we wrote like sort of the found footage version of it, and then what would happen if someone found the footage of it. So writing a fake documentary sucks. I do not recommend it, especially if you're trying to have actual like characters and growth and art and stuff. It's not easy to do. I think we did an okay job, but yeah, it was always intended to be a doc.
I'm curious if you would be willing to speak to some of film or otherwise like inspirations for like the story and especially like the horror elements, if you were drawing from anything specific you would want to comment on?
I mean, I'll say
I know
that.
the one big
Yeah.
inspiration, which doesn't lead to the
Yeah.
horror part, but.
I mean, the number one influence. I mean, you can't make a fake horror doc and not have Lake Mungo as like the highlight. So that's always there. But the thing that actually influenced Paul and I the most is Sarah Polley's movie Stories We Tell, which is not a horror movie, but I highly recommend that anyone here watch it. You will probably love it. It is her making a film investigating a story that permeated through the generations of her family. And so now that I've said that, it probably becomes very obvious how we just kind of ripped it off in a lot of ways. But that was a huge influence.
Well, but then we added holes in people's bodies and worms. A little slightly different.
It's homage, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Alright, how about you?
For the composer, what were your influences and how was it balancing this sort of credible true crime documentary kind of score versus trying to make sure you were still making a scary horror movie?
I think that I focus more on the scary horror movie side, and I do have a lot of documentary composing in my background. And I think really there are some documentary sequences, I guess documentary-esque, but I kind of just feel like I just try to marry the film as one, and just kind of like help push through, guide the story, all the chaos, try to like reel it in. Influence-wise, I think you guys had a lot of cool temp that you used, and also your notes were very precise, and also since you guys are in Austin, I'm in LA. It was all Zoom calls and just kind of Zoom meetings and going through, which I think is kind of a cool aspect of this too. That your notes were so on point, very precise, very meticulous, and easy. I mean, these guys were easy, really, really great to work with. That's all.
And Jimmy's insanely talented, and he does the scores for a lot of the Rustic films. They're all on streaming. You should listen to them. And we were listening to his scores writing this movie, so it was surreal, kind of working with him. But yeah, like some of our notes were like, right here it needs to be kind of like a things like that. And then he knew how to translate that. That's Jimmy's genius. Is we need like a here.
And that chair shot was also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like things like that.
And also the spiral staircase sequence with the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the sound, like when they're kind of Emmecott's power like knocks people out. That was actually developed in Jimmy's score. We're like, ooh, that sounds really interesting. We have versions of that, and then we use that in the sound design. So Jimmy's score has even worked into the actual sound design itself. It's really cool.
And even though we cut it to a lot of temp, you also gave us a lot of early test stems and whatnot that we were then able to build out. So even though his score came late in the process, it was actually kind of there in chunks all throughout, which was incredibly helpful.
I think I had scored half of the film, and then I had to move to a different project, and then you guys kept on, and I gave you the stems and came back. And,
It was Addison.
yeah.
Sorry.
It worked out. Addison made a movie called Touch Me, which was incredible. You have to see that.
Sweet. Maybe a couple more? You over there?
Me? Okay. I found the aspect of interesting that was the comment on story development, because there's the scene where he makes the tapes and then it says producers reached out to him of potentially doing a movie. And so how was your story development process? How were you able to manage to also write and direct it? Like, did you do a proof of concept, or like, did you have to convince anyone, or were you like?
Well, I mean, I think kind of going off of what Peter was saying earlier, we were just very fortunate that we'd worked together for a decade making stuff, producing or making small projects or writing our book, and then we wrote this script and just kind of had this attitude of, well, we're making it, we'll figure it out. If we have $12 or $1,200, we'll make it. And then we just got very lucky that Dave connected with it and the Rustic guys connected with it. And these guys know indie filmmaking. They're kind of like the Bible of indie filmmaking. If you haven't seen all the Rustic films, you should watch them all. And so getting them on board to kind of like shepherd us through our first film was like, I couldn't have written it better.
Yeah, it was a total unicorn scenario because We didn't have to do proof of concepts for it. We didn't do a pitch deck until very late in the process for one investor, and then even that ended up not really doing anything. It was all off of the script, and even though I think we always anticipated there'd be more improv in the film, there's some. I mean, when we mentioned what John did at the beginning, there's some stuff that Nell, who plays Wendy, did, and little things throughout. But everyone kind of just got the story, which is miraculous, because it's up to us was very fucking weird. It's also weird to write a fake doc because it has way more obnoxious call-outs to the edit, how it's gonna flow. Describing on-screen graphics is boring to read. But
interior location, POV, FX3, FX9,
Yeah.
mini DV, like every scene.
We put a lot of effort into spelling all that out just for us, and we were very lucky that Dave and Justin and Aaron were the first 3 producers to read it, and they said yes, because they instantly got it. And our first Zoom call with all 3 of them, it was like 10 or 15 minutes into it when Aaron was like, "Oh, by the way, we love this script and want to make the movie." We were like, okay.
and just again a testament to the rest of guys, like being shepherded through this process with them. They were so supportive of us kind of realizing our idea, but then really challenging us and pushing us in interesting ways. Where I think we were like, our instincts were to be like more commercial, and they were like, make it weirder, answer less, weirder. And that's I mean,
If
I think it worked.
anything, the development, that sort of pitching part of it, kind of came in post when we were doing the edit, because the assembly cut of this made Paul and I want to jump off a cliff. But
it was over 2 hours.
It was, and so we overcompensated by cranking this, the pacing way faster.
I think we got down to like 76 minutes.
Yeah,
that was bad too.
Justin and Aaron and Dave were like, no, let's get back to the script, pump the brakes a bit, let's keep things more mysterious, and they kept pushing us to lean back into what the script originally was, which was great.
It was the whole post process was really like this. Again, I mean, if you can't tell, this is like a movie made by a handful of people, and it was like most nights were like, I'm just alone by myself in my home office on a Mac Mini editing this thing. Peter's at his house at 1 a.m. watching stuff, and I'm just exporting scenes and sending them over to Peter, getting notes on it, making changes, sending it over. We basically edited the movie on Slack. They should sponsor us.
Awesome. Maybe one more, so make it good. All right.
I noticed in the beginning when you were showing the videos of the brother, in this corner over here was the brother's name with R.I.P. Was he originally supposed to die?
No, you're the first person to point that out. That's actually a little subtle nod to a friend of ours who passed away last year named Scott Wampler, whose online name is Scott Wampler. So we just made Lucas's his online presence, all of his handles were Lucas Page, R.I.P. Thank you for noticing.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching.